so this is a video I have been meaning to make for some time now. So what we're aiming to do here is do a side-by-side of utilizing and using Airtable in both ChatGPT and in Claude. So I've got a side-by-side here of ChatGPT and Claude, and I'm going to go through the process on both to see how quickly I can get Airtable up and running and accessing information from my Airtable using these two AI agents. So I'm going to do ChatGPT first. I'll just make the screen a little bit bigger here for ChatGPT, but I'll leave Claude here on the other right-hand side. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to come here and I want to go to Explore Apps. And then from here, from Explore Apps, let's just go ahead and hit Airtable and hit Connect. And it opens up a little thing here. Reference memories and chats, allow ChatGPT to reference. Yeah, that sounds good. Don't know what that means, but I'm going to go for it. Let's hit continue. This is going to ask me to do this. I'm just going to say a specific base that I am working in here. So let's go ahead and use house hunting. So house hunting, so that is a base that my wife and I use to look at houses and compare and contrast houses, neighborhoods, all that good stuff in Airtable. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit start chat. Looks like that's working now. All right, so it said Airtable down here. So I'm gonna say, how many houses are we considering? And let's just see what happens. But so far we are about a minute in and we are already using Airtable in ChatGPT. You haven't updated the custom permissions. Let's go ahead and just update that. And custom instructions. Don't know what any of this is. All good there. All right, what's this say? Is you referring to a trip project? Airtable base. Oh, okay. Airtable base. So let's just say Airtable base. Here we go. And now I believe it's saying copy and paste the base link. Okay, that makes sense. So let me just open up Airtable real quick. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go to here and I'll type in house hunting. And so I'm just going to copy this house hunting base right here. You'll see we have a whole bunch of house hunting information here, companies, neighborhoods, brokers, different correspondences, moving costs, pro-con lists, all that stuff, things that are for sale. So everything is all right there. So I'm just going to come back into my ChatGPT and just paste in that base there. And let's see what happens now. I'm going to actually pull open Base side by side with ChatGPT. I'll pull this on the left-hand side just because I had it on the left-hand side before. So now I have what looks like, hey, some Airtable stuff is in here. Now, that's pretty cool. 25 houses being considered. That's awesome. Very cool. So here's some houses and things like that in, here we go. So I'm going to say, how many in Texas? How many in Texas? And I think I have an address. Yeah, I've got an address here. So let's see if I just do a quick filter on this, which is how I would do this right now, where a filter contains Texas, or I'm going to say where address contains Texas, because it could be either or. There should be 20 records. Let's see, places has 25 records. 25 of them are Texas properties. One is not in Texas. Chelsea Museum District. Interesting. So this said we have 20. So let's look and just flip this filter here. So I'm going to remove that Texas one because that Texas one didn't show up anything here. So I'm going to flip this and say does not contain Texas. And so it's got 5 here. And so why does it think? So I'm just going to say, why do you think is in Texas? I don't even have an address here. It'd be super awesome if it knew that this Herman Park Loft was in Texas. It's a well-known landmark in Houston. Very cool. I bet it probably... So I'm just going to grab all of these. And I'm going to say, explain the same for these. I'm going to put those in there. And I'm going to see what they say for this. This is interesting. I'll apply the same standard to each one. Key rule. Okay, Herman Park. We assumed it was Texas. Very cool, very interesting there. Okay, the Oliver, they don't know. Dallas, that makes sense. It says Dallas. Summer Street, we also assumed it was Texas because Bell Rock is Houston multifamily. That's so crazy. My goodness. The domain, that's interesting. The domain is in Austin, exactly. So basically what it's saying is it only thinks that the Oliver is the only one. So if I just remove this filter again real quick and I look at the Oliver, I don't have any information really here on the Oliver. And so it just has no idea. But everything else, the ones that have Texas in the address and the ones that don't have any addresses at all, all those are actually in Texas. So that's pretty cool. So that's cool. That's ChatGPT and Airtable. Now I'm going to do the same thing here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to get rid of that and I'm going to open up Claude on the right-hand side here. And if I come here, I'm going to go to settings and go to connectors. And from here, see what's interesting is that in Claude on the web, so I'm on the web right now, if we go to connectors, browse connectors, type in Airtable, we don't see any Airtable here, which is kind of interesting. Now, what's actually happening is you have to go to desktop extensions. And when you go to desktop extensions, then that's where we see the actual Airtable MCP server. But you can only use Airtable's MCP server on Claude's desktop. So you can't use it on the web. So I'm going to go ahead and just open Claude Desktop. And I actually have Claude Desktop already installed. So let me just go to Claude Desktop over here. So I have Claude Desktop and Claude Code up next to each other side by side. So here we are in Claude Desktop. So over here, Claude Desktop. So this is the actual Claude app you can see up here running on my computer, on my Apple computer. And from here, you can see I have the Airtable MCP server already on here. I'm going to go ahead and uninstall this real quick and come back to that to show you how easy it is to set that up. So I'm going to go here, advanced settings. Let's go extensions, browse extensions. And I'll go Airtable MCP server. I'm going to add this MCP server. So this is a different concept than how ChatGPT does it. ChatGPT is like an official authenticated application with Airtable, whereas Claude and Anthropix is actually using an MCP server. And it's using an MCP server that an actual employee at Anthropic has developed. And so this is saying you need to actually give it an API key, an Airtable API key, which is a personal access token. So how do we get a personal access token? It's a little bit different than that workflow that you saw with ChatGPT. I'm going to just come back to my browser here, and I'm going to go back to the house hunting. I'm going to go back to my Airtable, come down to the bottom left-hand side here, go to Builder Hub. Builder Hub will take me to personal access tokens. From here, I'm just going to say Claude desktop demo. And from there, I believe it says here that you need to give it at least schema base read and schema record read permissions. So what that means is when you come in here to the personal access token, you add scopes. And scopes basically says for this personal access token, for this API key, here's what this key can actually do. Now you can always change that after the fact, which is really cool. So I'm just gonna say right now, I only wanna give it access to read the data in my Airtable. And I'm gonna type read again and go to the base schema read. That's what that personal access token, the MCP server is suggesting that I give this access token the ability to do. From here, I'm also just gonna go to the house hunting and choose the house hunting base. So you can give this personal access token. You can give Airtable, ChatGPT, OAuth, you can give it permission to do more bases or all of your bases or all workspaces or a specific workspace as well that your Airtable account has access to. But I'm specifically not going to give it write access to anything right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit create token. It's going to create this token. I'm going to recreate this token, so it's not that big of a deal. But from there, I'm going to go back to my Claude. I'm going to paste this in here and hit save. And so now I just have to hit enable here, and this is where you can actually go and read more information about the actual MCP server itself. And this is where these are essentially the tools that this MCP server has access to. So it has access to do more than just reading the base and reading records. It has access to, and it has the ability to delete records, create tables, describe tables. It's actually pretty awesome. And if you open up the actual documentation here, this is where you can actually go and see the documentation for the MCP server. and see what it actually has access to. So you can see all these different tools here, a part of this components section on this GitHub. This is where you can see it's very similar to documentation, like the actual API documentation that Airtable provides, but MCP servers work in a little bit of a different way. MCP servers are just how AI can talk to specific services, whereas APIs are very explicit and very specific instructions for how different applications can interact with a specific service. So I'm going to go back to my Claude, and I have enabled it here, and I could, if I want to, configure specific permissions. So I'm just gonna say by default, everything needs approval. I can say by default, everything is allowed. But I'm gonna go back to the actual sidebar here, and I'm gonna come here and just give it a fair shot and just say, how many houses am I considering? And it's probably going to get confused. And so let's see what, just as ChatGPT got confused. So let's see what happens here. It's searching through previous chats. Okay, it sees that we looked at something in Indianapolis. I'm going to go ahead and just stop this real quick. I'm going to make sure that the Airtable MCP server is on, which it is. And I'm going to say in this base. And let's go back to my base here. And we should just be able to, we should be able to go back, and we should be able to go back to the actual base itself. And I'm just going to refresh it here just to make sure that this is what we're looking at. Yep, this is the base. I'm going to copy the URL of my base, come back to Claude, and just paste that in there. And now let's see. And then I'm going to get this ready to say how many of the properties are in Texas. So this is saying here, what's cool about Claude is that anytime it actually hits the MCP server, it asks you, hey, can I do this? So it has the ability to do a lot of things, but it'll always prompt you to say, hey, can I actually do this? And you have to actually come in here and either say allow once, always allow, or deny, which is a really cool like human in the loop stopgap. So I'm just gonna say allow once. From here, you can see it's actually using that list records feature. So it's saying it doesn't contain houses, but it looks like, oh, this is interesting. I don't see any records about houses you're considering about buying. Is there perhaps a different table or base? Interesting. I'm just gonna open up what I gave it just to make sure that I gave it the right URL. My guess is, so I gave it a specific table. If I would have given it this table, I'm gonna actually just say, in that base, yeah, that's interesting. It is actually things that are for sale. So I'm going to say, in that base, there are other tables of properties. And it should now go to the other tables and list all of the tables in that base. And it's doing that. I'm going to say, go ahead, you can do that, list tables. Whereas previously it said list records. And list records, because I gave it an actual table here, it thought that I was giving it the right table. But it's saying, hey, this isn't right. So now it's saying, I see a places table. That's likely where properties are. Let me check that one. So now it's doing that list record again. It says, hey, you're considering 22 properties. And that's awesome. So cool. Great. I'm going to say, how many are in Texas? And I believe we decided it should say 24, but let's see how it gets to that number. All 22 properties are in Texas. Specifically, they are in Houston. Interesting. You're considering 22 properties in that places table. So if I go back to this places table again, there are in fact 25 recorded here, which is really interesting. And just for fun, I'm going to actually use Omni here. And I'm going to say how many places are in Texas, and just see what Omni says here. So Omni's Airtable's built-in AI. So let's see what it actually comes up with here. I'd be very fascinated to see what this actually comes up with. Analyzing your table. Cool. So this is very similar to like the look and feel. Okay, there's 20 places that say Texas. Interesting. So Omni basically essentially kind of went through and looked to see which ones have have Texas in the address, and it came up with 20. So ChatGPT was the most like abstract in terms of how it answered that question. We can see here Claude kind of gave us a different answer. I wasn't expecting Claude Desktop to give us that answer. But I'm gonna actually come in here and I'm gonna do the same exact thing using Claude Code, which is another way that you can actually interact with Airtable's MCP server. So I'm just gonna go, and there's a whole nother way of installing Claude Code. I'll put that in the comments of this video on how you install Claude Code, but I'm just gonna CD into my GitHub folder, and from here I'm gonna say Claude. This is gonna spin up Claude. You'll see what that looks like here in a second. You'll see what Claude Code looks like here. Boom, now we're in Claude Code. Great, I'm gonna say MCP, see if it has access to any MCP servers. No MCP servers, okay. So I'm gonna say add Airtable MCP. Awesome. Great. Do you want to search the web for the MCP server? This is kind of similar to the interaction that I was doing on Claude Desktop here. You do the same thing with Claude Code where it says, hey, can I proceed? Can I actually do this thing that I want to do? So I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and proceed. Now, I could give it the actual MCP server that I know that it is, that GitHub, but I'm going to see if it actually can figure it out by just searching the web is actually all it's doing. It's saying Airtable MCP server, Claude Code, 2026. It's crazy. I mean, Claude Code is the wildest part of this whole AI with Airtable. Watching Claude Code figure these things out is just so much fun because it goes through so many different and additional logical steps that you just don't see Claude Desktop doing. It's wild. All right, so here's what's saying, okay, Claude Code. Okay, so to add the MCP server, you'll need an Airtable API token, which I can get that. It looks like a personal access token. I can do that. Then run this command. Replace your key with the actual token. So I'm going to go ahead and this is awesome. Or if you prefer the JSON method, that's so cool. So this is interesting. It's saying, hey, optionally, I might need to be able to write things to your Airtable. So that's pretty cool. So after adding it, restart Claude Code. So I'm going to actually go side by side here with Claude and with Airtable, just so we can see what that looks like. So I'm going to go Claude and Airtable side by side now and come back here. And I'm actually going to go back to the Builder Hub, and I'm just going to recreate that personal access token because I don't know what that personal access token is anymore. And that's actually a good thing. You actually don't want to know your personal access token. So I'm going to regenerate it, hit regenerate, copy that, hit done. And it's saying here, it's starting to like pre-fill this here to say my key is. So I'm just going to hit tab, and then I'm going to paste my personal access token. Again, I'm going to recreate this personal access token. So I'm not worried about exposing this, but you should never share a personal access token on any video or with anyone, really. You should never share that. And watch what happens with Claude when I do this. It did this to me before. Okay, awesome. Yes, I want to add. Let's go ahead and add it. All right, Claude MCP. So it did it with the, okay, environment variables. So this is what's incredible about Claude Code is it's figuring out what happened, and it's figuring out, okay, let me try the JSON method. Yep, go ahead, try the JSON method. So that first method that it did, it didn't work. So let's see what happens with this JSON method. MCP server list. Yep, let's see if we have it. Now, what might be happening here is that it added the server, but it told us before that we needed to quit out of Claude and come back into Claude. So it might tell us that we need to do this, but it looks like checking server health, it's connected. Interesting, done. Is now connected and ready to use. You'll still need to restart Claude Code to use or start a new session. Your API key is now stored locally in the config file. You may want to rotate that. Okay, so I'll rotate that in a sec. Great, so now I don't need to worry about this Builder Hub anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and just create a new terminal instance by just hitting Command T or opening up a new tab. And then from here, I'm still in that GitHub folder. I'm just gonna type Claude. So now this is gonna start a new Claude Code instance. And I'm gonna type /MCP. We should see here Airtable, and we are connected to the Airtable MCP. I can hit enter, view tools, and again, I can see very similarly what I had access to before in Claude Desktop. It's just viewing it in a different way in Claude Code. So I'm going to exit out of that or escape out of that and escape out of that and escape out of that. Now I'm back into Claude Code, the regular like chat interface for Claude Code. So I'm going to say how many properties are in my base, and I'm going to give it this base URL. Again, hit enter and go, and let's see what happens here. Interesting. So it tried to hit it with an API. That's interesting. So it basically tried to do a GET request, an API call, like regular GET request on this Airtable URL right here. So I'm going to say use the MCP. I'm surprised that it didn't actually fix itself there. Do you want to? Okay, so this is saying, hey, I can use Airtable MCP. Do you want me to do it? I'm going to say yes, go ahead and do it by just hitting number 1. Interesting. It keeps hitting this API error of 500, internal server error. Fix the error. What is this? Research API error 500. Interesting. I've never seen this. I'm going to exit out of this. So that's exiting out of that terminal. I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to open up Claude again. I'm going to check the MCP. MCP is connected. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take this Airtable, and I'm going to say, can you see this table? Interesting. Great. I mean, I'm just going to copy this. This is fascinating that this is not figuring this out. What does that mean? This is probably this has got to be a Claude thing because I've never seen this before. I'm going to go / you know what? I'm going to do this in a different, let's see, / clear. And I'm going to just grab this. I've never seen this before. Paste that URL again. Nothing. All right, I'm going to go and I'm going to init this. It's not working. What is happening? We were having some errors with actually Claude's servers. So Claude servers were actually down. Claude servers are back now. So those 500 internal server errors that we were experiencing was nothing to do with anything that was happening. It was just Claude servers were down. So I'm going to hop back into Claude. And I'm going to do / MCP. And just make sure, again, we have Airtable's MCP server installed here, which is great. So I'm going to escape, come back here. And now I'm going to come back to my house hunting here. And I'm going to, again, just say, let's go address. And I'm going to say right here, filtered by address. Address contains Texas. And so, again, there should be 20 that gets responded, that it comes back with. So I'm going to grab this Airtable URL here. I'm going to say, how many places are in Texas? I'm going to spell out Texas. And I'm going to hit enter here. And let's see what happens. All right, so it says, I want to use an Airtable list records on a specific table, but I'm having an error. And this is the beautiful part about Claude Code, is that it thinks and figures it out. So it got an error here, right? So it got an API error here. But then it said, wait, let me just figure out what that API error is. So instead of doing a list records on this table in this base, finding the state. So that's what it tried to do here. This call right here that errored out, it tried to do an API call using the MCP server on this base, which is the correct base, on that table, which was the correct table. This 5.3 and 5.3 here is the correct table. But it said filter by formula state equals Texas. So it just assumed, the AI, not the MCP, but the AI, Claude, assumed that I had a field called state and Texas was in as a value of that field. So what that essentially was looking for is it was saying here, I want a field called state. There is no field called state. So it basically said, I want a field called state, which is a single line text field called state, right? And it wanted one of these to say Texas. So that's what it tried to do here. But it said invalid filter by formula. The formula for filtering the results, field name state, is not valid. It's invalid. So it knew that there wasn't a state field here. So I'm just going to delete it so that it's not there anymore. And so what it's doing is let me check the table structure. So it's saying describe that table with identifiers only. And identifiers only essentially means give me all the fields in this table. And so it found what you can't see here is it's saying, okay, I found this table, and it's going to show all of the, if I control O, all right, so it's actually, I've expanded that here. And can I go back up to see what that is? And let's see what happened here. I can't. Okay, show to toggle. I'm just going to toggle that off. So essentially what that was doing here was saying, okay, describe this table. So it knows that we're in this places table, and it says, let me search for Texas in the records. So it's searching through all the records in all of the tables for something with a search term of Texas. So that's interesting because search records is an MCP call. Search records is not actually an API call, which is fascinating. So it's saying, all right, I didn't find any records here. So now let me search all the records in which search term is Texas. So it's not saying look at this specific field or filter by this specific field, which is what it tried to do up here with this filter by formula. It's actually just searching for the term Texas. And it's saying, okay, we've exceeded our maximum amount of tokens. And so the output has been saved. So that's awesome. So it actually just said, I can't show you all these results because it's going to be too big for Claude, but I'm going to save everything into a file, which is incredible that it did that. And then all it did was it used this right here. It just looked at that file and just searched that file. And it said, there are 20 places in Texas in your Airtable place called in your Airtable table called places. They were found by searching for Texas in the addresses field. The table doesn't have a separate state field. It appears the state is included in the address field. How crazy is that? I can say, show me the list and hit enter, and it'll probably show me this similar list that I'm seeing over here, which is just incredible. So now it's saying, okay, cool. This is, again, using that file. It's not actually hitting Airtable anymore right now. It's hitting that file, and it's listing all of these. This is just insane. It's so cool, right? It's so cool. So that's reading from Airtable. So I could also let me look at some linked records here. So I'm going to say bedrooms and bathrooms in specific neighborhoods. So these are all neighborhoods in Houston. So I'm going to say, let me just go 1, 2. I'm going to add some data here. 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, and that's fine. And I'm just going to grab these neighborhoods and paste these neighborhoods here. And those all have some bedrooms and bathrooms as well. Great. So now I'm going to say I can do another filter on this by saying show me all the 2 beds in the Heights. So I'm going to say which ones are 2 beds in the Heights, which you can see here, the Heights and Houston Heights is different. So I'm going to hit enter and see what it actually does to see if it knows that when I say the Heights, I mean Houston Heights. And again, if you're using an API call, you have to be specific, very, very specific for this. When you're using the MCP, you don't have to be specific with this, which is just what's so crazy about this. So, okay, it found 3 places in the Heights. Okay, so it found 3 places in the Heights. Searching by zip code, that's interesting, but none of them have bedroom filled data. Now, the reason for that is because I just filled in the bedroom filled data in Airtable, and it's using this list that it actually recorded locally on my computer. So I'm going to say, delete that file, and only use the MCP, right? Let's see what happens here. Should be able to delete that file. Let's see what happens. Should say, okay, do you want me to delete it? Yes. So again, the beauty about whenever Claude tries to take an action, it'll always prompt you to say, hey, can I do this? So I'm going to say, yeah, delete this file, but I'm not going to let you delete all files or anything like that. So I'm just going to say, just delete this one file. So just, yes, you can do that. So now bash rm is remove. So it removed that file, and it's doing another list records again to see what's changed. Okay, now there are 2 places that are 2 beds in the Heights. Holden Apartments and Lincoln Heights. So let's filter this again. I'm going to filter by the heights here. And again, I said the heights, but the actual value is Houston Heights. And where bedrooms is 2. And what do you know? Holden Heights and Lincoln Heights is the exact same thing that is happening here. This is just absolutely crazy. So now, if the crazy thing is, all right, how can I write information back to Airtable? So let's see what fields I have here. We've got like phone number. Do I have website? I don't have website. Do I have URL? I've got Google Maps URL. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to type this with my voice as well, which is also the crazy thing about using AI. Use your voice whenever you can. So I'm just going to hold down a keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to say, let's add a URL field for these apartment complexes and search the web for the URL of the apartment complex and put it in that URL field. So it's going to put everything in there. I just vocalized it. I didn't have to type anything. I'm going to hit enter. And this is where it just really gets absolutely crazy here. So I don't need to worry about bathrooms here. While this is working, this is also what's cool about using AI and using Claude is like you can do things in 2 different places, which is really, really cool. So, okay, looking at your table, there's already a link field. Oh, interesting. I have a link field. I already have a link field. So it didn't do that, right? So how incredible is that as well? It didn't just do what I told it to do. It checked and it said, hey, there's already a link field and we already have values for both of these. Do you want me to verify them? Do you want me to create a separate one or do something else? It's so amazing. So I'm going to say, this could actually get crazy. I'm going to say verify them and check how many 2 beds are currently available and log to my Airtable. I'm not even going to tell it how to log it. I'm going to see how it comes up with, and really what it should do is it should come up with a plan similar to like, all right, here we go. Go ahead and search. And yes, you can search there as well. I didn't like those URLs, which is interesting. Or it didn't like Lincoln Heights, which is interesting. Holden Heights is working. Okay. Can I search? Yep, go ahead. Okay, so the Lincoln Heights one came up with an error. So instead of using that explicit URL that I gave it, it's doing a web search here for that specific thing and saying, okay, I found a different URL, which is incredible here. Find the floor plans. Yep, go ahead. Now, it could be that this is being stopped by some sort of a bot or something like that. So I'm not going to worry too much about this. It'll probably come back pretty soon and say, hey, I'm probably not going to be able to find this. So let's see. I'm not going to try too hard on this. But what it's actually, this is insane. So it's going and it's using apartments.com, apartmentfinder.com, Zumper. It's like checking all these other websites that have this information on it to try and get to the actual like outcome that I wanted it to get to, which is see how many are available, it found a whole bunch. Okay, so it's doing another web search again. And it knew to put price. Now, this was pretty ambitious for Claude to figure out. So let's see if it figures it out. If not, I'm going to try and just show you an example of writing to this. Got the info. Oh, it got something. Whoa. Now let me update your Airtable records with verified data. Let's see what happens. Update records. Interesting. So it just updated the link. And what is this 2-bed availability? Oh, I just double clicked on something. What did it just do? Maybe it put it in like a notes field. Let's see. Listing. No. What did I do? I could just ask it like, oh, my notes. Maybe I put it there. Hey, look at that. So it just put it in my notes field and it said, as of January 2026, when I'm recording this video, it says, here are the 2-bed availabilities right here. They're currently running a special. Here's phone numbers. and we used Zumper to get this data. That is crazy. Now, it just, and look at close to like HEB, it did the same thing for this one as well. Look at that. Different floor plans, all that stuff. It's so crazy. I mean, yeah, so that's awesome. So now let me look at neighborhoods. And so we've got neighborhoods and a description here. So I'm going to say, when we enrich the neighborhoods table. And let's just see what it does when I say enrich the neighborhoods table. And then, I mean, this is crazy. So it's going to list tables. It's looking through all the tables. It's going to find the neighborhoods table. It just did. Look through all the records. So now it's going to look through all the records that are in this table. Found 10 neighborhoods. That's exactly correct. It's doing a web search on walkability, living, restaurants. This is insane. It's going to add a whole bunch of new fields here, I think. I mean, this is the wild power of AI and Airtable using the best of AI with Claude Code right now, and using Airtable, which I think is the best database and like low code tool out there to be able to create apps like this. I mean, this is something that my wife and I use to actually find new places to live and have in the past. And she knows how to use it. I know how to use it. I mean, I could teach it to my 16-year-old nephew. I don't have a 16-year-old nephew, but I could teach it to my 5-year-old nephew. And I bet that they could figure out how to do it, especially if we start to build out interfaces. And that's really where we would go back to Omni, is to build interfaces with Omni, because you can't actually build any interfaces with Claude. Now, what would be crazy, why not? Let's do it on this recording right now. After it enriches this data, I'm going to actually come up with a plan in Claude to create an interface in Airtable, and I'm going to copy that whole plan from Claude and then give it to Omni, let Omni kind of run through its paces, and then see what Omni comes up with. So, man, this is just so crazy. It's like, I wonder how it... So also the cool thing is I can actually do this in a different Claude. So if I just open up a new tab, I've opened up a new tab, and I'm going to just write Claude again. So now I'm spinning up another instance of Claude on my computer. And I'm going to say here, neighborhoods. So I'm going to say, in this table, I want to... You know what? Not in this table, because I am currently enriching the neighborhoods table. So I'm not going to do it on that table, but I am going to do it on my places. So maybe I can create a map of all my places in an interface. I don't have any interfaces here, right? So we're seeing this in real time, no interfaces. Now, I could probably do this with Omni to say, create a map interface of all my places. I'm just going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to do it right now. We'll search the web to find data. So again, I could have done a lot of what I did with Claude in here. This specific, you know what? This specific base is not in a workspace that has access to AI labs. Let me see if I can turn it on real quick. Oops. Let me see if I can turn on AI labs. And while that's happening, let's just see what the enrichment of everything is happening. Custom extensions. I forget how to turn on AI labs. I think it's on the actual workspace level. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go account and AI. I know there's like an AI setting. I think it's on a workspace level. Yeah, it's here. Okay, so AI labs. Okay, so I'm just going to move that. So I'm going to move house hunting. So I'm just going to search for house. Oh, this is just in there. Let me go home, house hunting. Let me just move this to a different workspace that has AI labs. Okay, I've just moved it. So now I should be able to open this back up. Oops, I should be able to open this back up. And I think I have AI labs on here. I do. Generate an interface element. All right. So again, just to be clear, interfaces, come to this, nothing's built here. So I'm going to say, come here in data. I'm going to open up Omni. It knows that I want to build a map interface of the places table. Hit enter. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so let's see what happened here. This is interesting. So came up with all this data, done, it enriched all the neighborhoods with detailed descriptions. Interesting. So let's see what happened. I'm just going to make Airtable a little bit bigger here, and I'm going to go to neighborhoods, and look at that. Man, this is just insane. Look at that description it just came up with. Again, it's using Claude. I could have done this with an actual field agent, which is also just wild. So I'm going to go here and show you what this looks like in a field agent as well. So I'm going to build a field agent. You can search the web field agent, and I'm going to say enrich these neighborhoods enrich these neighborhoods, right? And I'm going to say from this name of a neighborhood, create field, and it's going to search the web, and that's all I gave Claude. Just say enrich this, and I'm going to give an AI field agent here in Airtable this as well. Again, look at that. I mean, that was quicker than Claude. I'm not going to lie. That was much quicker than Claude. That is mental. Look at all of this. It's so crazy. So this is, oh my gosh. And now this is working here. This interface is working here. Oh my. Okay. That's crazy. So it just, okay. The custom elements. Cool. Great. Map box. All right. So what it did was it actually, so it needs a map box access token. So I'm just going to paste that in there to say like, hey, this is what happened. And I might just go get a Mapbox access token real quick and come right back. All right, Rob from the future is back. So what's crazy here is I just basically copied in like, hey, here's what's happening. And it's saying, okay, here's the plan. You need to update with an access token. So I went and got a Mapbox access token, but it's saying in the right-hand side here, I need you to put the access token here and ensure the element is properly linked to the necessary data. Does this look right? All that good stuff. So I'm going to come here, and it's just crazy that over here, it gives you the, like, this Mapbox access token is here. So I'm just going to add my access token, paste that in. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That's insane. I'm going to say, yeah, I want to click into the details. Oh my goodness. Coordinates, name. Do I want to build it? I think it's just working. Let me preview this. Let me click on something. Whoa. I can click on things. It opens it up. It moves around. I can zoom in and out. That's pretty wild. All right. That's pretty wild. Whoa. Sorry about that. I mean, that's pretty wild to be able to see so many different ways to use Airtable and AI. Using Airtable's built-in Omni, which as you can see with that last little bit with building that interface so fast. I mean, that was wild to be able to get this in like one prompt is absolutely crazy. We went through what using AI in Claude Code looked like and interacting with Airtable using Claude Code. We did the same thing with the Claude desktop app, and we did the same thing with OpenAI and ChatGPT. As you can see, many different ways to kind of skin a cat, many different ways to use Airtable and to use AI. And that's kind of one of the beauties about Airtable is that there's so many different ways that you can interact with it. It's not only interacting with it on the data layer here. It's not only interacting with it here, it's also interacting with it with interfaces. It's also interacting with it with automations. It's also interacting with it with forms. It's also interacting with it using their API, which if you just come in and you look at the actual API, you can hit this little question mark here and hit view API documentation. And you can see what's so cool is that Airtable builds an API for you based on your actual table data. So you can actually see your actual table data here. All this API documentation gets created dynamically for you when you're building on Airtable. So just a wild, wild ride. It's been on this AI journey, on this Airtable journey of the last 10 years or so that I've been using Airtable. I've used it in so many different use cases, and I can just only think of so many different new ways to use it now that there's all these new tools out there to make Airtable that much more powerful. So if you enjoyed this, feel free to continue to follow along as I share other ways to use tools like Airtable and AI to really kind of unlock new potential with what's possible for everyone out there. So all the best, and thanks for watching.